Hey Exo Geeks, this is Jack, and I'm back with my final robot workshop before Las Vegas. Today we're joined by Klinsmann Langhanz, who is from Brazil. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. A little spoiler of what will happen at the end of the video.
So, Klinsmann's from Brazil. He, much like me, is an Excel esports enthusiast who
Totally.
really enjoys taking part. We might not be at the top of the leagues, but we have the best time. And we're both case authors as well.
Yeah.
But you've taken it to the next level this year, and you have founded and organized all of FMWC Brasil, and you've just been churning out case after case after case
Yeah.
in Portuguese for the whole of Brazil to enjoy. So,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did that happen? Just...
Well, actually, I think I searched on internet. I knew about the Microsoft Excel World Championship beforehand, but I never tried it. So I got into Dim's videos. It was my entrance door to this world,
Yeah, that's
So
everyone's feeder drug. Just
yeah, one thing in common for everyone. So actually, I started watching Dim's videos, and I tried like the last battle last year. It was September, if I'm not mistaken. The last battle scored pretty poorly, like 200 points ish, something like that, and tried the Open Qualifier one. So in the Open Qualifier one, as it is region based, I got into. There was 3 spots for South America. I got the last one with if I'm not mistaken, I got the worst score for everyone who got qualified throughout the globe, and it was enough for me to be part of the 122. And because of that, I got a lot of media attention in Brazil. I got into newspapers, the TV shows. They came to my house, and I was in the morning show for in my state here. So it was a lot of things happening, and I was posting that on LinkedIn. And Andrew Grigoryanovich talked to me, and I also had that intention on why not have like something like that in Brazil, So it was like a mutual idea. Andrew liked that idea and that exposition, and me too. So when I went to Vegas to take part last year at the Active Cell in the last chance qualification round, after the finals, I had already scheduled with Andrew a meeting in a bar in Vegas. So it was like the dream coming true. And we didn't sign the deal at the bar, but we talked about it. And so we kind of agreed and signed the deal at the bar. Of course, the signing was after the New Year, but it was how it happened. So because of the media attention, and because I think people can see that I'm very enthusiastic about the championship, and that's why I created, like in this year, I created 15 cases this year. Yeah,
That's
10 for Brazil. 10 for Brazil, 3 as a case developer for the 2024 season. The promo one about VisiCalc, that will come to the players.
I'm really excited to hear more about that too.
Yeah, okay, I can tell more things about it. And another one under development, I don't know if it will be used this year or next year, but total 15 cases this year. And that only happened because I'm very enthusiastic about it, and that I had the time to do that, because having the ideas, like checking all the answers, formatting that for like 15 cases,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. But I did that also for the personal branding part of it, and also as a study method, because when you got to force yourself to, how does this happen? How can I model it in a way that it has some edge cases, or how do you create all those scenarios? So it was part like another way of studying. I'm not competing with Dim, with Bo, with Andrew. I'm not up there, but as a form of practicing, of sharpening my skills, I thought that it would be a different and a cool approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah. Dim even said in the Unpivot podcast today, when they were talking about competitions and challenges and what you do, it's great to be winning, but 90% of what you get back from the experience of partaking is how much you develop as as an Excel user, how much you develop your skills and your mind as well, just in pushing yourself to try those things.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that because at the moment, not right now, but after we finish the recording, I'm gonna return and keep polishing my presentation because I'm a speaker at the Active Cell, and my presentation is about how to prepare or how to understand the flow of the championship. Yeah. And because I created an online course in Portuguese about competitive Excel and challenges and stuff, I had to put things in boxes, So this is Lambda, this is, I don't know, how you model the shortcuts, So I had to dissect or X-ray all those things. And that's pretty clear in my mind. I'm going to talk about that at Vegas. So yeah, it's another way of testing yourself. The cases, well, probably I'm not going to face a real life scenario where I have like that world map, like Ship the World, that case where you gotta travel through some different paths and stuff. But that's not what you get. Yeah, probably not. Probably if you're into logistics or something like, maybe. But what you get from facing hard problems and sometimes solving it, sometimes not being able to solve it, that limbic friction, that those times where you cannot understand or how do you do that, and eventually you find an answer by yourself, or you can watch some videos and, Dim does it like that, but Andrew and I did it the other way, and Lorenzo did it the other way, a third way. So that's cool about this. It's your repertoire. It gets bigger and broader and wider, and it's all your toolkit, right? Yes. The more tools you have, the easier.
I must admit, I get tools to use from Dim's videos quite a lot, because there's always something. I mean, you've got to watch it in half speed and kind of like sit there and dissect what he's doing. But yeah, process. Okay, I think I'm starting to get the thinking thing. But then I watch Andrew's videos. I don't learn anything new apart from how clear his brain is. Yeah. How simple each case was, but everyone except Andrew made it complicated.
Yeah. It's amazing because we were talking about that in our study group, because there was this card about Andrew and I, and his favorite formula was LET.
Yes.
And I don't remember him using LET. He uses helper columns, but his way of thinking is so clear, is so accurate. He doesn't debug. It's just a time of solving the thing. It's another approach. He doesn't use fancy lambdas. He doesn't use like fireworks. But he gets the job done and fast.
Yeah.
So
I would love to be inside his head just for the sheer peace that must be in there. Everything seeming clear and simple.
Another thing I realized is that he's very fast at typing. You can hear that like mechanical keyboard. Yeah. So I cannot type without look at the keyboard, even though I play the guitar and play a bit of piano, but I cannot not be looking to the So I think that's another thing, that if you add up all those little things, it makes difference in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me about the VisiCalc. What can you tell us?
Okay. First thing of all, here's the original manual from 19.
Okay, for anyone that doesn't know, before we carry on, Klinsmann is a manual geek. Okay.
Yeah.
He is a geek, especially for the vintage manuals in Excel, VisiCalc. What else do you
Multiplan. I have Multiplan, which was the first Excel of Microsoft. Let me just
get your camera back.
Yeah, I buy and collect all those vintage manuals because I work exclusively with Excel and teaching people, consulting, stuff like that, developing tools and solutions. And from my perspective, from my experience, the average or the daily user is kind of stuck between Excel 2000 and Excel 2007. Yeah. The average user doesn't know the main concepts back in the day about like how does trues and falses are numbers or zeros, or some data tables, keyboard shortcuts. That was things back in the day because there was no mouse. mouse was introduced by Excel in 85. So since VisiCalc 79 until Excel 85 in 85, there was 6 years with full spreadsheet modeling without this little guy over here, you know? So people who got into spreadsheets after that, they just started using the mouse. But back in the day, there was the full list of shortcuts and everything was done without the mouse because there was no mouse. So VisiCalc on 79, Microsoft Multiplan on 82, because Multiplan was Microsoft's Excel from three years prior to that, because Excel's from 85. And the things that are in the manuals are fascinating. I learned so much about it, and that's why I got into VisiCalc, which was the first one. And based on VisiCalc and based on the FMWC, whether it is the global one or the local one here in Brazil, I got into case development, and I thought, well, this year, 2024, the VisiCalc completed 45 years since the first release. It was October 17th, 1979. And I thought, why not create a case based on VisiCalc's quirks, you know? So I did start the scratching and drafting the case. And then I thought of, well, it would be cool if I could receive the blessing or the amen of the creators themselves, Dan Bricklin and Bob Frankston. And I emailed Dan Bricklin, I don't know if it was, I remember if it was June or July. He replied me, but then there was this period of like 4 or 5 months with no answer. And then I created that post on LinkedIn. If the community could help me sharing so we can get like to broader audiences. I don't know if it was because of the post or he found my lost email, but he answered me like one day or at the same day I did a post. I don't remember.
And I think it was the post. It was almost definitely the post.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday we had this very cool call and conversation. It should have been like 30 minutes, but it went like 70 minutes talking about stories. He told me about Bill Gates, about Steve Jobs. Like, you know, he was friends with the guys. You know? Yeah. So that's why the VisiCalc, that's where it came from. It comes from the VisiCalc, the manuals. It started with my intention on understanding better the software, because nowadays we don't have like manuals. We got the PDFs, we got the videos, whether they are long videos on YouTube or shorter videos on TikTok or Reels or Shorts. Yeah. But the physical ones, the manuals, it's written here. You can, you know, it's the same difference between reading a book and then a PDF or an ebook. So that was the spark that ignited. And I don't know if it will be done in time to share the case with the audience, with the guys in the active cell. I hope it is. Yeah. But even though even if the case was ready, I talked with Dan Bricklin if we could like have another call with the case then finished, because in this call we had yesterday, he told me more details and I had more ideas to change the questions and to be like more precise to how it was back in the day. So it will require more work to be done on the case.
It's almost like this is your way of kind of like expressing your artistry is through cases.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you going to show us today?
I'm going to show you guys how to create a OA robot command based on a table with no arguments, just to apply the command and go. Okay, so what was my idea? So we usually face those cases where we got maps and stuff where you need to offset one row and one column. And here I got like directions, like north, east, if we need them. We got also the arrows. And as I speak Portuguese, and then I get rows, and the equivalent of rows, which will be lines in English, and columns is columns, something like that. So that's the universal table we use. So here they are all like just values. What I could do, if I have them, I could refer to them, and then here we got this spill dynamic array, and then if I hit F9, I can evaluate that, and then I get like a formula because it begins with an equals here. And now that I have a formula or a function, I can bring up robot and generate lambda statement. So as I'm in a cell that contains an equals and something after it, there are no arguments. So there's no steps or whatever is here. So if I click OK, I got that as a lambda. So now that I got that as a lambda, I can bring up robot again, Control-Shift-O, and plus to add something, and plus again to add an Excel formula command. So I'm still clicked on that particular cell in the top left corner, and then it brings up this window, and I want to call this command jack video. Oops, jack video. So with that, we should have, it seems it worked.
You'll always have my name in your spreadsheet now.
Yeah. So if I go other place here, Control-Shift-O, and here we are, our command, it's already working, but let's test it. And the other file, let's see if it's already here, jack video. It still works. Okay, so that's perfect. We don't need to close and reopen.
No.
So yeah.
That's great. I mean, you've just given a perfect demonstration of how you can do it in one workbook. The first the first actual command creation that I've had on my videos, because they've all been lambda generation or let cycling, that sort of thing. So your first command itself, and you've demonstrated throwing that into a whole new workbook on the go. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So this one here is a case that was presented in March in Brazil, which is called Excel Athlete Basics. I created this case. It's not actually a case. It's just this promotional one before the first battle, where I could show the Brazilian audience what it looks like to solve a case from the World Championship. So this one, it's already translated to English. Liana Garish helped me translating all the cases. And we got one about a map. Here, they asked us to find a cell and then to get the value above or below. And it's written, it's not with an arrow.
Yeah.
So if I can get that example here, for example, I'm going to copy that, another sheet, so can have that explicitly here. So, okay, so here's the example 7. So we got a map, which is whatever map, just random numbers.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm on sheet 4. So what's on U19? First of all, I would use like indirect of map, condition mark, ampersand, this, close. So U19 is 2. Let's check that out. U19. Yeah, it's a 2.
That's the one.
So yeah, that's the 2. So it asks us what's above that cell. So if I want to use that was not the case, because with the word we could use like an if, because it only asks above or below. So we could skip the arrow thing. But if you can use this to translate that to our case here, I can bring up robot and use my jack video command here, which contains all the directions and the arrows. So for example, I'm going to copy that here. The above means up, right?
Straight up. Yep.
Yeah. So just centering it. Now we could use an offset of searching that in the row and the column. I'm just going to check if the order is correct. So let's try the offset one. Where I want, so the reference, I'm going to use that as a reference.
Okay.
So offset, that, rows. Now I can VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP, look up that. Oops, sorry, it's in English, so my brain isn't working properly. So I'm looking for that, where? Here, and as we're talking about the row, I can bring that from here. So that's the first argument for the row. Yeah. And for the call, I could do the same and search for the same arrow, another XLOOKUP, that again. Here, lock, returning from here, lock, close XLOOKUP, close offset, and we got the one.
That's the one we were looking for.
That's literally the one we were looking for. So that's how it works. The intention on creating or showing this is that, as you mentioned, with Dim, for example, you created all the people who have recorded with you, they created Lambda commands or Lambda formulas. I started with just raw data, and then I pointed to that data to create the Lambda with a Lambda command, like generate Lambda statement. And with a Lambda created, I used that Lambda to create a command with add Excel formula. So if we're here again, if I bring up robot Control Shift O, what was that? Plus to add an Excel formula command. I'm repeating the process here. So it opens up this window, and we can like jack video 2. It will behave the same, but that's the process again. So I was clicked on a cell where there was a Lambda or a whatever function there was. So, and it's interesting because this is a Lambda with no arguments. So if I'm not mistaken, it was this that I'm showing you here was already fixed by Eric, because I was testing this back, I don't know how many weeks ago. I was the first, I don't know, international beta tester, or at least a Portuguese beta tester.
Yeah.
And I tried this very example here, and it didn't work because the Lambda or the mechanism wasn't expecting a Lambda with no arguments. So it was an easy fix for them. And that's why I chose to bring that, because it carries this history.
Carries that, yeah. This is something you've molded as part of the beta testing group.
Yeah. It's literally it. So I think when you think of Excel in general, all about OA Robot, it's not only about like moving across a map and having that giant Lambda that can move path, like that bow style of doing things. This is just a quality of life thing. You know, if you have the list of your company building names or customers or whatever, you can have that by one click or by one command here. So that's the purpose. Yeah.
Presumably we could do something like this where we've got a source file that we use as our kind of our go-to file, but because that opens in the background, we can then have, if that file gets updated on the network or something, we can have a command pointing at something that regularly gets updated for your client list or whatever it might be. And then every time you then go and call that command, it's opening up the workbook in the background and you're pulling in a whole new fresh list. Just by using that rather than having to actually.
It's like a data validation.
Yeah.
Right? You point to a range. If the range changes or if you insert something, it brings that updated value.
That's fantastic. I like that.
The intention here is to create an OA robot command that brings up this table wherever we need without a formula. So here we got the data laid out in the spreadsheet. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type equals and that. So we got like a reference of that, but I'm gonna evaluate that with F9. So now we have a formula of that. First of all, I'm gonna convert that formula, bring up robot Control Shift O, generate Lambda statement. And now I generated a Lambda with no arguments because there was only data. And now that we have this Lambda with no arguments, I can bring up robot again, Control Shift O, and type plus to add an Excel formula command. And when I do that, it's double click. I don't remember if it's click or double click, but it's thinking already. And I can name my command like jack video 3.
Because we've never done this before.
Just never. Jack video 3. And now, ta-da, we got our command. And then we can switch files and whatever we want. I can bring up robot, Control Shift O, and apply or use my Jack video 3 command. Ta-da!
Yay! Success. Great success. Yeah. I think that's another good example because you can just flip that one around as you need to. A lot of people are more comfortable doing their XLOOKUPs vertically.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a historic thing? Because VLOOKUP was always better known than HLOOKUP.
I think they were both created at the same time at the same product. It was Lotus 123, and I think people are more used to look up in the vertical because that's how data should be organized.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think. But they were creating the same version, the same product. I mean, like in '79 in VisiCalc, there was already the lookup function, not the V or the H lookup, just the lookup function. And then 4 years later, they implemented both of them.
Just talking about OA Robot, you've had quite early access compared to the rest of us.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing?
I think it's the possibility of removing the formulas from your head. Maybe functionality. You can extract the user. You don't need to know how to create a formula. If you have it done or created by you or by Dim or by Eric, you can just import it and use it.
Yeah.
Eric told me something that I found it really interesting. You don't need to know VBA to use VBA. It's analogy about OA Robot. You don't need to know how to travel across a map and all those shifting stuffs. If you got the command and you know how to use it, that's it. Yeah. I don't know what's the algorithm that the XLOOKUP or the XMatch uses to bisect things. You just use match or XMatch, That's the kind of thing which makes us closer to OA Robot or to literally using it in a daily basis. It's that you're not linked or attached to that technical stuff. If you have that command, use that command.
Yeah.
I think it's well, it may seem it's simple as that, but as I told you, I'm finishing my presentation about how to prepare to the World Championship in Vegas, and at the very last slide, this is a spoiler. I put an image of Buzz Lightyear saying Excel goes to infinity and beyond because we got VBA, we got Power Query, you got Power Pivot, Python, custom lambdas, OA Robot.
Yeah.
Endless opportunities and possibilities. It can be seen as a curse or as a blessing because there's infinite things to do and to learn. Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I know there's one guy that actually does this. It's kind of like having a canvas and doing art on it. Because you no longer need to just use the formula that are there. So let's say you've got 300-400 formula. You've now got any formula you can imagine.
Yeah.
You can create. And even if you're not that good at writing the lambdas, that's what OA Robot has also helped with, is you can now use OA Robot to create your thousands of formulae.
That's perfect. And that I couldn't have the time to practice or to study, not the OA Robot, but to study the cases, to practice the cases lately. But one thing I think it will benefit me the most is that I'm not that lat guy. I cannot create like 15 rows formula. So the way I do things, I use helper columns. I usually lay out my model and use a data table.
Yes.
But that breaks my momentum when there's this question who says, okay, now it's player 1 against player 2. So all my model, I cannot use like one for player 1, one for player 2. And with OA Robot, with that generate lambda statement, for example, I can use all my model and turn it into a formula. So I can apply that to player 1 and apply that to player 2, like with 2 cells.
Yes.
So that's one place I think it will benefit me at least the most, because I mess up with my screen. I put things here and there, and I cannot like copy paste the block because I wouldn't have fixed some range. So, for me, I think it will help in that multiplayer scenario, I think.
Absolutely. I can actually say that because generally you either come up with a solution that's in line that you can copy down row by row to exactly match the answers, or you spend a lot of time creating a big thing that's multi-line, get an output, and historically we've always just had to use create data table, and then the data table has a tendency to make Excel slow down. It doesn't always recalculate the way you want it to, and sometimes I just don't trust what's going into my solutions. So it kind of allows you to do that without having to lock in the data table at the end and then copy things back to that.
There's no performance issues because while we are recalculating the data table, tells you stop, wait, I'm calculating, and when it's done, you can like type again and keep doing your things. With a formula, well, at least if it's a fairly simple one, you don't get that delay. You don't. It's not. I don't know the verb in English, but
it's instantaneous.
Yeah. You don't feel that the computer is running it, unless it's some nonsense, indirect, volatile thing,
Yeah.
But that's a way of generate lambda statement, generate lat statement. It's perfect for that. For that. Yeah.
Okay.
So now this is part of our presentation that I have like curated all the manuals and have the historical stuff. So this is part of the VisiCalc 1979 reference card. And these here are the very first functions ever written.
Those have totally been stolen for every other spreadsheet since.
Actually, I wouldn't say stolen, but the case was VisiCalc was called the killer app. It was worth buying an Apple II back in the day just to have VisiCalc. Okay. So I don't know the term in English, but the other companies were trying to compete with VisiCalc. They had to have this functionality or the ability to read VisiCalc's files. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten big in the market. So I wouldn't say copy. Maybe it was at some degree, but just like compatibility, something like that. Yeah. So we got the first functions. What else? We got the lookup function since from day 0. So there was no VLOOKUP and no HLOOKUP, just the lookup one. Here is Bill Jelen, Mr. Excel, because in the first release, there was no if function. So he mimicked like an if function with a lookup, with a helper table. If you find a number or not, you get a 0 or a 1, and then you can move on with your calculation. So that's how the guys did things back in the day. So there was no if function yet, even though
step-by-step logic.
Yeah. And they had invented it actually back in the day, but there was no room or no memory, because back in the day they had like 32K memory for running the operational system, the things you were running. So everything counted. Based on where you click on the spreadsheet, it will consume more memory than if you clicked in like A1 consumes less memory than you click on, AB 200. Things like that. So what else do we got here? We could split screen back in the day. So we could type things like on the left and at the very right, see the answer, because there was this limitation on the screen size. So we can keep going on and on and on. We could like freeze panes, that not just split screen, but freeze panes, so you can see the first ones. So here we got like column A and then column I and J and K. So like in the first release, it happened.
Yeah.
So it was
that's amazing that is actually kind of like freeze panes is that old.
The command to replicate formulas, because again, there was no mouse, there was no fill handle to drag, so you got the command. How does it call this division thing? Slash? /R is to replicate a formula. So you could use a sum in a column. You couldn't drag that to the right because there was no mouse. So we had to replicate that formula,
Oh my God. I'm trying to imagine a case where you have to go /R/R/R/R/R.
Yeah. And well, we got the Control R to replicate to the right and Control D to replicate down. Yeah. So, but those were shortcuts that came with the IBM PC in '81. Back in the day, this was the Apple II. And also, the Apple II had no 4 arrow keys. It was just left and right. So while you were using the VisiCalc, you had to press space to change from horizontal to vertical movement.
So you go left, right, right, space, and then you're going down, down, down.
Yeah, exactly. We can keep going on and on and on. I got 400 slides here, so literally, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so we're definitely going to have to do a session at some point where we're where we do kind of like a full VisiCalc history.
Cool.
What would actually be interesting is, so do you have a copy of VisiCalc in an emulator or anything like that?
We can emulate it on the internet because based on all the patent things or non-patent things back in the day, the IBM bought VisiCalc and then they made it free. I don't know the complete story about that, but we can emulate because the creator, one of the creators, Dan Bricklin, he has the .exe on his website. But as I run Windows 11, we cannot run those files.
So it needs to be emulated in a browser setup. Okay, so you heard it here first, folks. This January or February or March, sometime soon, after Vegas, Klinsmann and I will be running a VisiCalc where I think we need a VisiCalc challenge, where you put me up with an emulator, having never used VisiCalc before.
Okay.
And talk me through solving a special VisiCalc mini case.
Okay. I do agree. Okay. I'm on.
Great. So, coming soon, competitive VisiCalc case.
Ooh, vintage game is back.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today, Klinsmann. That's been an enlightening experience, learning about VisiCalc, seeing how you've used OA Robot to move a table between spreadsheets effectively, and have something that's just always there every time you open up a case spreadsheet is fantastic.
Time saver, game changer, whatever.
You don't have to write out. You don't have to find all the arrows and write out the directions. It's just sorted for you.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic, and we look forward to seeing more of you in Vegas this year. Are you going to be doing the last chance qualification round like me?
For sure, but I couldn't practice the way I wanted it to, but I'll be there.
Okay. Same, but probably not for the same reasons as you. I don't think I've been quite as productive as you this year.
Thank you for having me, for inviting me. It was a pleasure. You know, whenever you have these opportunities or things to do, call me. I'll reply. I'm in. Everything Excel related.
I'm specifically looking forward to our VisiCalc challenge next year. So
let's do that. Let's do that.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
We think?
Shall we?
And back.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see Klinsmann again soon.